Hi everyone. In this video, I want to talk about something that is often misunderstood when it comes to narcissistic relationships. Not the dramatic moments, not the obvious conflicts, but the slow psychological damage that happens quietly over time. I say this not from theory alone, but from years of living with a narcissist and witnessing how deeply this dynamic affects a person's inner world. Here's something many people don't realize. The start of narcissistic abuse is not loud. It's subtle. The first thing a narcissist takes from you is not your time, not your love, not even your peace. It's your certainty, your sense of what's real. They lie easily, but the lie is rarely the whole story, because narcissists are not just liars, they are master justifiers. You can bring screenshots, messages, recordings, timelines, and what happens? They look at you and calmly tell you that you're wrong, that you're overreacting, that you misunderstood. Not because they believe it, but because they need you to believe it. Narcissists don't simply deny reality, they replace it. And once your certainty is gone, everything else becomes easier for them to control. What I just described is not forgetfulness or miscommunication. It's gaslighting. Gaslighting is one of the most psychologically destabilizing forms of manipulation because it targets the mind itself. It slowly teaches you to distrust your own perceptions, your memory, and eventually your judgment. And this is why narcissistic abuse is often invisible. There are no obvious bruises, no clear moment where you can point and say, "This is when it broke me." Instead, there's a gradual erosion of confidence. People often say, "Why didn't you leave sooner?" But they don't understand that by the time you're asking that question, the person has already been trained to doubt themselves. You start questioning things that once felt obvious. You replay conversations in your head. You seek reassurance not because you're insecure, but because your internal compass has been tampered with. People don't research narcissism by accident. They search for it when something feels deeply wrong, but they can't yet explain why. And staying unaware is exactly how this dynamic maintains control. Another defining feature of narcissistic relationships is how responsibility is reversed. A narcissist lies, betrays, cheats, or crosses a clear boundary, and somehow you leave the conversation feeling guilty. You begin apologizing for things you didn't do, explaining behavior that wasn't yours, carrying emotional weight that doesn't belong to you. This isn't accidental. The situation is turned so thoroughly that you begin to wonder, maybe it was my fault, maybe I caused this, maybe I'm the problem. That moment of self-doubt is the pivot point. Because once you doubt yourself, the narcissist doesn't need to convince you anymore. You start doing it for them. They are not trying to resolve conflict. They are trying to escape accountability. From a psychodynamic perspective, narcissistic behavior is often understood as a defense against shame. Individuals with narcissistic traits have a fragile internal structure. They struggle to tolerate blame, exposure, or emotional responsibility. When shame appears, it feels overwhelming. So instead of processing it internally, they project it outward. The shame becomes yours. The guilt becomes yours. The confusion becomes yours. Your empathy becomes the mechanism that keeps the system running. This is why narcissists often appear confident on the surface while being deeply reactive underneath. What looks like arrogance is often a shield. Living with a narcissist is not constant chaos, it's quiet depletion. You wake up thinking, maybe today will be better. You go to sleep feeling like you're slowly disappearing. The exhaustion doesn't come all at once, it comes gradually. You stop recognizing yourself. Your emotional range narrows. Your energy is redirected toward managing someone else's moods. This isn't love, it's survival. One painful reality many people face is repeated betrayal. Not because you weren't enough, not because someone else was better, but because narcissists struggle to be alone with themselves. Their sense of self depends on external validation, attention, admiration, reaction. When betrayal is exposed, the response is rarely accountability. Instead, blame is redirected. The vase is broken and you're told it was your hands. The most destabilizing moment in a narcissistic relationship is often not the betrayal or the lying. It's when you try to leave. That's when the dynamic changes. Suddenly they become attentive, present, remorseful. This is not transformation, it's strategy. They know what pulls you back because they've been observing you for years. And once stability returns, the pattern resets. This cycle continues because narcissistic defenses are deeply ingrained. They protect a false self at all costs. Responsibility threatens collapse. Truth threatens exposure. So the narrative must always be rewritten. This explains the lack of empathy, the victim stance, the panic when control is lost. Understanding narcissistic psychology is not about diagnosing others. It's about protecting your own mind. When you understand the pattern, you stop internalizing the damage. You were not weak. You were targeted. Awareness doesn't erase the past, but it prevents repetition. And that is where healing begins.